गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णू गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरा गुरुर् साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः. The Gospel of Sri Ramkrishna, the immortal conversations of Sri Ramkrishna meticulously recorded by M. Mahendranath Gupta, is now a world-famous, multifaceted gem. It is a landmark in religious history. There is a special feature about the Gospel. Even one who has read a page or two of this marvelous book finds he is immensely benefited in facing a crisis or tiding over problems. Just a perusal of the Gospel fills the wayward mind with immeasurable peace. Many indeed make it a point to read a few pages of this holy book before starting the day's work or retiring to bed. From today onwards, I shall be reading and recording few pages of this Gospel every day. Master and Disciple, February 1882. It was on a Sunday in the spring of 1882, a few days after Sri Ramkrishna's birthday, that M. met the first time. Here, M refers to Mahendranath Gupta. Sri Ramkrishna lived at the Kalibari, the abode of Mother Kali, on the bank of the Ganges at Dakshineshwar. M, being at leisure on Sundays, had gone with his friend Sidhu to visit several gardens at Baranagore. As they were walking in Prasanna Banerjee's garden, Sidhu said, "There is a charming place on the bank of Ganges where a Paramahansa lives. Would you like to go there?" M assented and they started immediately for the Dakshineshwar temple garden. They arrived at the main gate at dusk and went straight to Sri Ramkrishna's room. And there they found him seated on a wooden couch facing the east. With a smile on his face, he was talking of God. The room was full of people, all seated on the floor, drinking in his word in deep silence. M stood there speechless and looked on. It was as if he were standing where all the holy places met, and as if Sukadev himself were speaking the word of God, or as if Sri Chaitanya were singing the names and glories of the Lord in Puri with his devotees. Sri Ramkrishna said, "When hearing the name of Hari or Rama once, you shed tears and your hair stands on end, then you may know for certain that you do not have to perform such devotions at the Sandhya anymore. Only then will you have the right to renounce rituals, or rather, rituals will drop away of themselves. Then it will be enough if you repeat only the name of Rama or Hari, or even simply Om." M looked around with wonder and said to himself, "What a beautiful place! What a charming man! How beautiful his words are! I have no wish to move from this spot." After a few minutes he thought, "Let me see the place first, then I will come back here and sit down." As he left the room with Sidhu, he heard the sweet music of the evening service arising in the temple from gongs, bells, drums and cymbals. He could hear music from the Nabat too at the south end of the garden. The sound travelled over the Ganges, floating away and losing themselves in the distance. A soft spring wind was blowing. Laden with fragrance of flowers, the moon had just appeared. It was as if nature and man together were preparing for the evening worship. M and Sidhu visited the 12 Shiva temples, the Radhakanta temple and the temple of Bhavatarini. And as M watched the services before the images, his heart was filled with joy. On the way back to Sri Ramkrishna's room, the two friends talked. Sidhu told M that the temple garden had been built by Rani Rasmani. He said that God was worshipped there daily as Kali, Krishna and Shiva, and that within the gates many sadhus and beggars were fed. When they reached Sri Ramkrishna's door again, they found it shut, and Brinde, the maid, standing outside. M, who had been trained in English manners and would not enter a room unannounced, asked her, "Is the holy man in?" Brinde replied, "Yes, he is in the room." M, "How long has he lived here?" Brinde, "Oh, he has been here a long time." M, "Does he read many books?" Brinde, "Books? Oh dear, no. They are all on his tongue." M had just finished his studies in college. It amazed him to hear that Sri Ramkrishna read no books. M, "Perhaps it is time for his evening devotions. May we go into the room? Will you tell him we are eager to see him?" Brinde. Go right in, children. Go in and sit down. Entering the room, they found Sri Ramkrishna alone, seated on the wooden couch. Incense had just been burnt and all the doors were shut. As he entered, M with folded hands saluted the master. Then at the master's bidding, he and Sidhu sat on the floor. Sri Ramkrishna asked them, "Where do you live? What is your occupation? Why have you come to Baranagore?" M answered the questions, but he noticed that now and then the master seemed to become absent-minded. Later he learned that this mood is called bhav, ecstasy. It is like the way an angler acts when sitting with his rod. The fish comes and swallows the bait and the float begins to tremble. The angler is on the alert. He grips the rod and watches the float steadily and eagerly. He will not speak to anyone. Such was the state of Sri Ramkrishna's mind. Later M heard and himself noticed that Sri Ramkrishna would often go into the mood after dusk, sometimes becoming totally unconscious of the outer world. M. Perhaps you would want to perform your evening devotions. In that case, may we take our leave? Sri Ramkrishna, still in ecstasy. No, evening devotions. No, it is not exactly that. After a little conversation, M saluted the master and took his leave. Come again, Sri Ramkrishna said. On his way home, M began to wonder, who is this serene-looking man who is drawing me back to him? Is it possible for a man to be great without being a scholar? How wonderful it is! I should like to see him again. He himself said, Come again. I shall go tomorrow or the day after. M's second visit to Sri Ramkrishna took place on the southeast veranda at 8 o'clock in the morning. The master was about to be shaved, and the barber having just arrived. As the cold season still lingered, he had wrapped himself in a red-bordered moleskin shawl. Seeing M, the master said, So you have come. That's good. Sit down here. He was smiling. He stammered a little when he spoke. Sri Ramkrishna to M. Where do you live? M. In Calcutta, sir. Sri Ramkrishna. Where are you staying here? M. I am at Baranagore at my elder sister's, Ishan Kaviraj's house. Sri Ramkrishna. Oh, at Ishan's? Well, how is Keshav now? He was very ill. M. Indeed, I have heard so too, but I believe he is well now. Sri Ramkrishna. I made a vow to worship the mother with green coconut and sugar on Keshav's recovery. Sometimes in the early hours of the morning, I would wake up and pray to her, Mother, please make Keshav well again. If Keshav doesn't leave, whom shall I talk with when I go to Calcutta? And so it was that I resolved to offer her the green coconut and sugar. Tell me, do you know of a certain Mr. Cook who has come to Calcutta? Is it true that he is giving lectures? Once Keshav took me on a steamer, and this Mr. Cook too was in the party. M. Yes, sir, I have heard something like that, but I have never been to his lectures. I don't know much about him. Sri Ramkrishna. Pratap's brother came here. He stayed a few days. He had nothing to do and said he wanted to live here. I came to know that he had left his wife and children with his father-in-law. He has a whole brood of them. So I took him to task. Just fancy, he is the father of so many children. Will people from the neighborhood feed them and bring them up? He isn't even ashamed that someone else is feeding his wife and children, and that they have been left at his father-in-law's house. I scolded him very hard and asked him to look for a job. Then he was willing to live here. Are you married? M. Yes, sir. Sri Ramkrishna with a shudder. Oh Ramlal, alas, he is married. Ramlal is a nephew of Sri Ramkrishna and a priest in the Kali temple. Like one guilty of a terrible offense, M sat motionless, his eyes fixed on the ground. He said to himself, Is it such a wicked thing to marry? The master continued, Have you any children? This time M could hear the beating of his own heart. He whispered in a trembling voice, Yes, sir, I have children. Very sadly, Sri Ramkrishna said, Ah me, he even has children. Thus rebuked, M sat speechless. His pride has received a blow. After a few minutes, Sri Ramkrishna looked at him kindly and said, You see, you have certain good signs. I know them by looking at a person's forehead, his eyes, and so on. Tell me, now what kind of person is your wife? Is she a jnani, a wise person? Or is she ignorant? M. She is alright, but I am afraid she is ignorant. Master, with evident displeasure, and you are a jnani. M had yet to learn the distinction between knowledge and ignorance. Up to this time he had thought one got knowledge from books and schools. Later on, he gave up this false idea. He was taught that to know God is knowledge and not to know Him ignorance. When Sri Ramkrishna exclaimed, "And you are a Jnani," M's ego was again badly shocked. "Master, well, do you believe in God with form or without form?" M, rather surprised, said to himself, "How can one believe in God without form when one believes in God with form? And if one believes in God without form, how can one believe that God has a form? Can these two contradictory ideas be true at the same time? Can a white liquid like milk be black?" M. Sir, I like to think of God as formless. Master, very good. It is enough to have faith in either aspect. You believe in God without form. That is quite alright. But never for a moment think that this alone is true and all else is false. Remember that God with form is just as true as God without form. But hold fast to your own conviction. The assertion that both are equally true amazed M. He had never learnt this from his books. Thus his ego received a third blow, but since it was not yet completely crushed, he came forward to argue with the master a little more. M. Sir, suppose one believes in God with form. Certainly he is not the clay image. Master, interrupting, but why clay? It is an image of spirit. M could not quite understand the meaning of this image of spirit. But sir, he said to the master, one should explain to those who worship the clay image that it is not God, and that while worshipping it, they should have God in view and not the clay image. One should not worship clay. Master, sharply, that's the one hobby of you Calcutta people, giving lectures and bringing others to the light. Nobody ever stops to consider how to get the light himself. Who are you to teach others? He who is the Lord of the universe will teach everyone. He alone will teach us, who has created this universe, who has made the sun and moon, men and beasts and all other beings, who has provided means for their sustenance, who has given children parents and endowed them with love to bring them up. The Lord has done so many things. Will He not show people the way to worship Him? If they need teaching, then He will be the teacher. He is our inner guide. Suppose there is an error in worshipping the clay image. Doesn't God know that through it, He alone is being invoked? He will be pleased with that very worship. Why should you get a headache over it? You had better try for knowledge and devotion yourself. This time M felt that his ego was completely crushed. He now said to himself, "Yes, he has spoken the truth. What need is there for me to teach others? Have I known God? Do I really love Him?" How true the proverb is. I haven't room enough for myself in my bed and I am inviting a friend to share it with me. I know nothing about God, yet I am trying to teach others. What a shame. How foolish I am. This is not mathematics or history or literature that one can teach it to others. No, this is the deep mystery of God. What He says appeals to me. This was M's first argument with the master and happily his last. Master, you were talking of worshipping the clay image. Even if the image is made of clay, there is need for that kind of worship. God Himself has provided different forms of worship. He who is the Lord of the universe has arranged all these forms to suit different men in different stages of knowledge. The mother cooks different dishes to suit the stomachs of her children. Suppose she has 5 children. If there is a fish to cook, she prepares various dishes from it, pilau, pickled fish, fried fish and so on, to suit their different tastes and powers of digestion. Do you understand me? M humbly, yes sir. How sir may I fix my mind on God? Master, repeat God's name and sing His glories, and now and then visit God, devotees and holy men. The mind cannot dwell on God if it is immersed day and night in worldliness, in worldly duties and responsibilities. It is mostly necessary to go into solitude now and then and think of God. To fix the mind on God is very difficult in the beginning unless one practices meditation in solitude. When a tree is young, it should be fenced all around, otherwise it may be destroyed by cattle. There are 3 ways of meditating. Think of God while doing your duties, or meditate on Him in a secluded corner of your house, or contemplate Him in a wood. And you should always discriminate between the real and the unreal. God alone is real, the eternal substance, all else is unreal, that is impermanent. By discriminating thus, one should shake off impermanent objects from the mind. M humbly, how ought we to live in the world? Master, do all your duties but keep your mind on God. Live with all, with wife and children, father and mother, and serve them. Treat them as if they were dear to you. But know in your heart of hearts that they do not belong to you. A maid servant in the house of a rich man performs all the household duties, but her thoughts are fixed on her own home in her native village. She brings up her master's children as if they were her own. She even speaks of them as my Rama, my Hari, but in her own mind she knows very well that they do not belong to her at all. The tortoise moves about in the water, but can you guess where her thoughts are? They are on the bank where her eggs are lying. Do all your duties in the world, but keep your mind on God. If you enter the world without first cultivating love for God, you will be entangled more and more. You will be overwhelmed with its danger, its grief, its sorrows, and the more you think of worldly things, the more you will be attached to them. First rub your hands with oil and then break open the jackfruit, otherwise they will be smeared with its sticky milk. First secure the oil of divine love and then set your hands to the duties of the world. But one must go into solitude to attain this divine love. To get butter from milk, you must let it set into curd in a secluded spot. If it is too much disturbed, milk won't turn into curd. Next, you must put aside all other duties, sit in a quiet spot and churn the curd. Only then do you get butter. Further, by meditating on God in solitude, the mind acquires knowledge, dispassion and devotion. But the very same mind goes downward if it dwells in the world. In the world, one only thinks of woman and gold. The word woman and gold occur again and again in the teachings of Sri Ramkrishna to designate the chief impediments to spiritual progress. This favorite expression of the master, Kamini Kanchan, has often been misconstrued. By it, he meant only lust and greed, the baneful influence of which retards the aspirant's spiritual growth. He used the words Kamini or woman as a concrete term for the sex instinct when addressing his main devotees. He advised women on the other hand to shun man. Kanchan or gold symbolize greed, which is the other obstacle to spiritual life. Sri Ramkrishna never taught his disciples to hate any woman or womankind in general. This can be seen clearly by going through all his teachings on this subject and judging them collectively. The master looked on all women as so many images of the divine mother of the universe. He paid the highest homage to womankind by accepting a woman as his guide while practicing the very profound spiritual disciplines of Tantra. His wife, known and revered as the Holy Mother, was his constant companion and first disciple. At the end of his spiritual practice, he literally worshipped her as the embodiment of the goddess Kali, the Divine Mother. After his passing away, the Holy Mother became the spiritual guide not only of a large number of householders but also of many monastic members of the Ramakrishna order. Coming back to the conversation going on, the world is water and the mind milk. If you pour milk into water, they become one. You cannot find the pure milk anymore, but turn the milk into curd and churn it into butter. Then, when that butter is placed in water, it will float. So practice spiritual discipline in solitude and obtain the butter of knowledge and love. Even if you keep that butter in the water of the world, the two will not mix, the butter will float. Together with that, you must practice discrimination. Woman and gold are impermanent. God is the only eternal substance. What does a man get with money, food, clothes and a dwelling place? Nothing more. You cannot realize God with its help. Therefore, money can never be the goal of life. That is the process of discrimination. Do you understand? M. Yes, sir. Master, consider what is there in money or in a beautiful body. Discriminate and you will find that even the body of the most beautiful woman consists of bones, flesh, fat and other disagreeable things. Why should a man give up God and direct his attention to such things? Why should he forget God for their sake? M. Is it possible to see God? Master, yes, certainly. Living in solitude now and then, repeating God's name and singing His glory and discriminating between the real and unreal, these are the means to employ to see Him. M. Under what conditions does one see God? Master, cry to the Lord with an intensely yearning heart and you will certainly see Him. People shed a whole jug of tears for wife and children. They swim in tears for money. But who weeps for God? Cry to Him with a real cry. Longing is like the rosy dawn. After the dawn comes out the sun. Longing is followed by the vision of God. God reveals Himself to a devotee who feels drawn to Him by the combined force of these three attractions. The attraction of a worldly possessions for the worldly man, the child's attraction for his mother, and the husband's attraction for the chaste wife. If one feels drawn to him by the combined force of these three attractions, then one can attain him. The point is to love God even as the mother loves her child, the chaste wife her husband, and the worldly man his wealth. Join together these three forces of love, these three powers of attraction, and direct them all to God. Then you will certainly see Him. It is necessary to pray to Him with a longing heart. The kitten knows only how to call its mother, crying meow meow. It remains satisfied wherever its mother puts it. And the mother cat puts the kitten sometimes in the kitchen, sometimes on the floor, and sometimes on the bed. When it suffers, it cries only meow meow. That's all it knows. But as soon as the mother hears this cry, wherever she may be, she comes to the kitchen. Jai Thakur, Jai Ma.